Inspiration Nation, hello, Lee Kemp here once again with Joe Neuer and Ryan Boniface. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, all good.
Right. Sorry, I cut you off there, Joe. But
That's
before I go into my usual spiel, before I forget, as is my nature, I want to follow up on what we were talking about last week. Friday night dinner.
Oh, yes.
Have you watched any?
So, we actually had a little preamble talk. We went live, but you on Instagram, you might have seen it, I don't know, but we've got Instagram live on here as well. But yes, I finished, well, I thought I'd finished watching it, but Lee informed me that no, there's 5 episodes, so I've...
5 series.
5 series, sorry, not 5 episodes. And I have watched all 3 series even, or 3 seasons if you want to go into like the American type. So Lee has advised there's actually another 2 seasons that I've still to watch, but I watch it on Netflix. Sorry, Netflix, little free plug for you there. But yeah, so I haven't watched more, but I've watched all of that I can at the moment.
That's good. So you've injected a bit of comedy into your life. That was your challenge.
Yeah, that was it, and I've done it. So I've done that. So I suppose the next thing for me is just to really continue to watch something. So I suppose I'll just get a little recommendation. But we did talk about other ones that we might talk about, i.e. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I do sort of dip in and out of, and The Big Bang Theory.
So it's been a comedy-filled week for you then, Joe.
Yeah, but I know you and Ryan said that I should watch Rick and Morty.
That's our next push.
So do I have to watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
It's on Netflix, isn't it?
It is on Netflix.
It is, yes.
I'm not too sure about that because it's on cartoons, isn't it?
Yeah. Go on, Joe.
Well, don't hate it until you've tried it.
Okay. I've got to do the Inspiration Nation piece on that one, haven't I? Okay.
Right, TV time's over. It's now plug time. Don't forget, everyone, we are across all social media platforms at ListenToIN, ListenToIN. Joe is at JN Coaching Tech. We are getting some good traction on our YouTube channel, which is Inspiration Nation Podcast on YouTube. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Perfect. So leave some feedback, give us a like, leave us a review, retweet any of our stuff, give us a follow, all that sort of social media jazz.
Oh, lovely. Nice.
What are we talking about this week then, Joe?
So this week is about everyday self-awareness. I thought we'd talk about as we go through our lives. It's just difficult to sometimes be self-aware. So I've got a little bit of definition, as I always sort of do. I'm trying to write less and less notes because of the winging episode we talked about, and I like
that this is sticking a little bit, Joe.
Yeah, and I think also I've noticed and I've watched back, I think the self-awareness piece on this as well is when I've been watching back on the videos. I've not told you, I want to say this for the podcast, is that I think even sometimes I'm interrupting you guys when you're talking, and I don't know, sometimes
because of the notes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes is that distracting me from something, and also am I listening to you? Like we talked about listening earlier in the episode, and whether I'm almost like driving my point, and I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing. I'm not quite sure, but I do feel sometimes that I've done that, and I think this is what I talk about when it's about awareness. Mum, you're in this, so don't forget you can chip in whenever you want. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Joe.
Lovely. So I'm not sure, and also there was a thing when you said to me, there was one, and I know I'm saving this for a podcast, I think it's just important. You said something, and then you saw my face, and you went, oh, and you said, only joking, Joe, and I don't know whether you saw something in my face to say, did I agree with that, did I not agree with that, because I did something like a sort of talking about self-awareness, really. I did something called Insight, and I don't know if anyone knows it, but it's like a sort of, I don't know if you would come across it, but it's a sort of personality psychometric testing. They talk about sort of different colours you are and things like that, and it sort of gives you.
I've got a bit of an awareness of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been through anything like that?
No, not at that level. No.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the feedback was that I get quite sensitive around if people don't agree with my ideas.
Right.
And so when I heard you that, or like Ryan, if I'm talking to you and I'm like powering through, I want you guys to bring it to my attention. If you think I am almost like powering through like an opinion or something, I want you to pick up, or if you see my face sort of look a little bit different, because I want you to put me up, because I need to be aware of it, because I don't want to think that you feel that you can't say something. Do you know what I mean? Is this uncomfortable for you?
No, not at all. I quite like it. It's like proper growth on the podcast that people can hear what we're... Because I do the same. I sometimes listen back to the things we've said as I'm listening to the podcast before it goes out, and sometimes I catch myself out and think, actually, do I do or not do that thing we were talking about, and try and put it into my subconscious, which, like you said, is exactly what you're doing there. And it's good as well, people listening, obviously we're going a bit less preppy, I suppose, around this. Say preppy, we're not all wearing like blazers around our necks and stuff. Preparation.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Who's this distraction? What was that? Is that me? Oh,
God,
it's me.
Joe, notifications on the podcast. How unprofessional.
Apologies.
But it'd be good for people's feedback as to how the episode sounds different with us having a little less preparation behind it. I really struggled on my words there, didn't I?
Did you just think what I just said you did? I thought you said... Did you say best? You said with an R, didn't you? I thought, oh, maybe not.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that's just part of the comedy, I think, filtering through there. Ryan, can you strike that from the podcast, please? Anyway.
It's too late now.
Oh, thanks.
It's on Instagram.
Right.
Anyway.
I'm live on Instagram. Oh, anyway, let's get back
Let's move on and let's make this a breast podcast. Done.
Oh, thanks, Lee. You both feel so much better now. This is what it's all about, really. It is about self-awareness. So the definition I've got is knowledge or perception of a situation or fact. So in every moment, I think there's an opportunity to be self-aware. I think that's what I'm talking about. And even when I've looked back, when I watch the YouTube, and I really like the YouTube, and I know whether this is like a self-promotion thing or whatever for our podcast, but I really enjoy the videos. I know, Ryan, you sort of put an excerpt on them. I really love them, I think. And that's when I spotted the whole thing about my face, and I thought, have I given them a look? And subconsciously, you've taken it because you're very aware, both of you are like, very aware how that is. Did that trigger you to change your tack? Because unconsciously even, I don't know, that's what I wanted to get the truth out of you, whether, did I look upset? Did I sort of give this almost like a, what's the word? A look that might be, that I don't agree with that, or like, you know, like some sort of flash, like a really quick micro facial explanation.
If I'm honest, it's not in my consciousness that I remember that.
Right.
So it might have happened on a subconscious level, but it doesn't stick out for me that I remember that happening.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, it's weird, isn't it? But if you watched the YouTube video back, you watched the YouTube video?
No, but I'm going to go through and look for that and see if I can see it.
All of us say, Ryan, I think they're like, for me, it really does add a lot of value for me when I look back at it when I have the video. But I think for me that's that piece of self-awareness. When I hear it on the podcast, yes, I hear me sort of like talking and we're talking, expressing things. And Mum picked something up for me. We were talking in the car on the way here, and Mum said to me, "Oh, you use your hands a lot, like this." So, but I said to Mum, I'm quite visual, so I use my hands to make a point of something.
That's how you tell your story with your hands.
Yeah, I do. And Mum said, "You do a lot of hand movements," and I said, "I can't help it."
Fingers all over the place.
There you go. Yeah, that's what Mum said. And in that moment, I thought, how did I feel? And I felt like trying to be honest about how I felt. And at that moment, I thought, oh, do I feel a little bit of a shift towards, should I not use them so much? Should I be more natural? You're going to say something?
Did you feel hurt when I said
a little
that?
bit, I think if I really be honest, I think, not hurt as in like, oh, it's really bad, like, but you know when you get that initial feeling, oh, and then you get back and your conscious comes back and you think, this is okay, it's good, it's great.
Is that an attack?
Yeah, your brain is sort of going, is that, yeah, it's like you feel it as an itch in the next, anyway, we'll talk about it in a minute, but there's another thing we'll talk about. I want to hold on to. Can you hold on to that a minute? Can you remember that?
I'll hold it.
Yeah, because it's something
like a little balloon.
That's lovely, beautiful. See, now we're doing this. But yeah, so in that moment, I felt a little bit of a twinge, and I thought, oh, okay. But that's a good thing because it's making you grow, and that's where we grow, isn't it? Like if I'm using my hands too much, should I keep them down? What's the difference? If I keep my hands down here, does it make a difference to my voice when I'm talking? Or because I'm now consciously thinking that, am I consciously thinking, okay, can I make the point without using my hands? See, even now I'm still doing it, even though I'm consciously doing it.
And how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable.
I feel sometimes using the hands, it can be distracting from what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
I found that programs on TV, there is this woman that kept putting her hand out. And I said, for goodness sake, stop with her hands. Because I just kept looking at her hand instead of concentrating on what she's saying. Isn't it? Well, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
But it's fine to demonstrate, to project.
See, now you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm projecting.
My mum's projecting, doing this in the behind.
Arms going out in front.
Yeah, so projecting.
You want people to receive what you say.
So if I don't use my hands, it almost, I think
you can't use your hands.
It takes a little bit away from what I think I say.
I actually
what do you think,
disagree. Mark? I understand what you're saying, and I get where you're coming from. I think that from a presenting point of view, as you kind of touched on there, I think if you stand, say you're, in a more of a professional environment, if you're presenting something to colleagues or external people, for example, and you stand at the front and your arms are flat by your sides, and you just go, "Welcome to my presentation. My name is Joe. We're going to be talking about."
Have you seen Joe's presentations? Because that's exactly how it is.
But you are the speaking voice of the presentation, but as the presenter, you're meant to bring it to life. Yeah. You're meant to show them the story and to take them down the road. But if you're not moving your hands or your arms or anything like that, you seem like you're disengaged from what you're doing. It seems almost as if you don't really care. Now, I think
really? Wow, that's powerful.
I think, anyway. That's
powerful.
Again, in my opinion, that's why I think if you use your hands and you use your body language, we had a discussion, didn't we, the other week, about 60% of a conversation is based around body language rather than what you say and your intentions. So, but that wouldn't differ from a conversation or a presentation or a debate or an argument, or you would use your hands. I mean, in the news this week, obviously Boris Johnson was made Prime Minister. I don't want to get into too much.
We're getting a bit political here.
But people were criticising him the day after, saying that he used his hands too much. Jeremy Corbyn said that he kept.
Interesting.
For those of you who can't see, I'm just throwing my right arm forward, but he was criticised for just pointing and doing and making comments like using his hands, and I disagree. I think that it's something that shows passion and intent for what you're saying.
I suppose it's a thing. I suppose like Mum found it very distracting.
Yeah.
So there's going to be different. I suppose different. I was going to say different styles for different people. There was a different way. I was going to use it a different way, like very, very. I'm so sorry. I think there's a comedy coming out, but there's a different.
Hold on, you need to elaborate on
13 minutes.
Well, I was going to say
elaborate on that one, Joe.
So I have to.
Where you were going,
but I don't know. So different strokes for different folks. Is what I'm saying. Please don't put that on a soundbite. You know, those Twitter things. Please don't put that on there.
So look out. Within the week, there will be a quote up saying "different strokes for different folks."
But have you ever heard that?
Joe Noyer.
Have you ever heard that? I've heard that, and I don't know where I've heard it, but I've heard it from somewhere. But that's the thing. And as you get, I think, for me and Ryan, I think you made a really powerful point. And even now, and when you were talking, you were getting really quite passionate because you were actually putting your hands out in front. And even as you were like talking about, you like before you said, "I put my hands out in front." There's a lot of different gestures.
Yeah, I just think I try and resonate it back to maybe like a weather forecast on TV for those people that aren't really too aware of geography. For example, if somebody said, I don't know, in West Glamorgan it's going to be raining, somebody might go, well, where's that? But they point
where is West Glamorgan, by the way, right?
I think it's in South Wales. I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so they use their hands to show where that actually would be, and they say there's going to be high pressure up here or down here, or it'll be raining over here.
Ryan is now like pointing to different areas of a virtual map, which I really like. So carry on.
If we had the little bit of paper.
Oh again. It's your fault.
I'm not getting up and drawing a map of the UK.
I'm disappointed that you're not doing it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ryan.
Have you seen that test they do where they get people to draw what the UK looks like from mind, and every single person has got
miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to us talking about self-awareness for quite some time now. So I like when you gave me this title.
This is why I thought I'd bring this one up.
And just on that, and it's really good to hear all the different views on the hand gestures thing. I think the important something we talk about through lots of the episodes, but we talked about last week with the Wing It thing about presentation styles and that, and how when I'm talking, doing a presentation, holding a meeting, doing a training session, talking to a person, my objective in my head is to make sure they're getting the message that I need them to understand, and I'll adapt my style as I go.
Okay.
And I think people who are good presenters, or people who are good at motivating people, or people who are good at doing messages, are people who are naturally good communicators. And as a part of that, they will subconsciously do a lot of hand whatevers. And I think there's a lot of things people are subconsciously good at. And to give an example on this, I am in, and have been for the last 10 years, in job roles that involve leadership. And it's something that, to be able to have been doing it for 10 years, I think I must be all right at doing it. But it's something that I had natural elements of already. And the memory I have for this is way back when I was at school.
This is way?
I mean, not as long as you, Joe, obviously, but sometime before then.
Don't forget my age.
Yeah. we had calculators then, not abacuses.
Oh, that's fine.
Ryan doesn't know what abscess is. I'll tell you later.
I thought it was stone tablets, but
yeah, different tablets now.
Sorry,
anyway,
so get back on. Sorry.
So at a parents' evening, and I still remember my form tutor at the time telling my mum that I was either incredibly lazy or an incredibly gifted leader, or a bit of both.
Because school,
yeah.
Wow.
Because when we'd all sit on our tables, and then each week you had to get your little book signed to say, yes, I've done my homework. So you'd have your homework log, and then your parents would sign it to say you've done your homework. Once or twice I may have got very good at doing my mum's signature. But then you take
can't believe you just admitted that. Fraud.
Sorry, mum.
Yeah, get your mum on the podcast.
No, she can never hear this. But then the form tutor would sign it. And what he pointed out was that never did I take my own book up. When it was my name, I would give it to someone else and they would take it up for me. And I never, it just happened. He never realised it. And he sort of said he's very good at getting people to do things, but I didn't really realise it. And I really didn't think anything more of that until I started doing the roles I do now, because it wasn't something I was great with, but there was some ability in there. And then, you can hear about this in the previous episodes. I talk about the courses I went on to and people who opened my eyes to what leadership was, and they brought all that stuff out in me. But there was some innate ability there already, and then once I became aware of that ability, I could train it and develop it and harness it. And it's the same, back to the hands thing, is you can be good at communicating because of your hands, but once you become self-aware of that, I was going to talk about this with it being mentioned to you on the way up today, Joe, about you with your hands, it's a skill, but you can do it to an extent and it's all right, but once you become self-aware of that skill, you can harness it and use it and develop it and get things to be better with it. And I always say that to people, is there things that you're good at, but it's all about when you become excellent at those things, is when you're aware you're good at it and you develop it and you harness it and you use it. And I would with the hands thing, because I use it to create energy in a room, but sometimes you can tell that it's putting people off and you can pull it back.
How do you tell it's putting people off?
I look for facial cues, body language, reception that you're getting from people.
But how do you know it's your hands?
I don't necessarily always know the hands. It's a bit more fuzzy in my head.
It's more like
I think it's my whole overall, because I think it's all together. Like we talk about communication styles, I don't think it's just about that. But I think the words I'm saying, my body language, a hand, they're all part of the same thing, and you can tune up and down different parts of it. And with the Boris Johnson example, and I can see it because he was obviously trying to be passionate, going rah rah rah, this, but actually pointing and one hand is very aggressive. So what was he trying to do? It might be the intention is to give passion, but it can be authoritative, especially when you're a divisive person who half the people really like you and half don't like you. They're going to be looking for it. Whereas I'd almost, if you're going for the passion, my self-awareness thing, rather than doing that, would have been this. To be more, like they talk about in body language, open chest, signify, all that. So again, using the body language, just being aware how you're doing. I'm certain he was doing it to get the right sort of reaction, because I've got no doubt he's not where he is without being aware of those things. But it is quite, I'm the right-wing leader who just got in, point, can be taken that way by people that didn't. So I think all comes back to that self-awareness thing. And I always think self-awareness is you being aware of how you impact other people and knowing what your weaknesses are and learning how to develop them or to cover them up, and what your strengths are and how you emphasise them.
And I think a thing you said to me before, and it comes from your entrepreneurial leader for people you work for, and I really like what he said. I'm not a great believer in okay, you wear your weaknesses or covering them up or just putting them, but I think you should play to your strengths.
Absolutely,
play to your strengths,
and that's what I mean by cover. It's not hiding them, but you bring people in around you to supplement them, or you find ways. As we talk about all the time, I have an atrocious memory, absolutely terrible. I'm good for remembering things that have happened, which is I can ramble on about all these stories. But if there's something I need to do this afternoon, it probably won't happen. But what I do is I leave myself prompts. So I will write on a post-it and stick it in my wallet, because I always look at the inside of my wallet, and I use that to get around my bad memory.
So can I speak up on that? Because I don't think people should say I've got a bad memory, because no one has actually a bad memory. You don't. You just say you've got a bad memory. And the things with that, and I think...
Who are you?
Sorry?
Who are you?
I don't know. I forgot. I'm picking up on these cues now. You see that I'm flying, going with the flow. But and I think I'm just going to pick up on that because I think no one has a bad memory. All you're saying is that there's things that aren't so significant to you that you think you need to remember, but you put a prompt. And the fact you put a prompt and you look at it, you know what that is.
Yeah.
That means you've still got a good memory. And I think there's no such thing as a bad memory, unless obviously you've got an accident and you've suffered brain damage or whatever. You know that's different. But everyone's got capability, and I think the more we talked about this before, watch our language. So I'm asking you, going to challenge you to watch your language.
Okay.
You do not have a bad memory. You need to think, or however you're going to do it, whatever word you want to use, but I want you to change that.
Okay. I don't have a bad memory. I have a memory that is more occupied with Friday night dinner quotes than it is what I've got to do this afternoon.
That's true, isn't it? It's more significant to you. That's the thing about it. Against enough, so whatever's more significant to you, you're going to remember more than something that's not so significant. And I think that's where people think, I've got bad memories. No, it's because it's not, in your personal value system, it's not as important.
I know, Ryan, at the moment, you, through some projects and stuff you're involved in at work, you're doing things that are about building up your own self-awareness and stuff like that. So what's your kind of, what's your thoughts on the subject of self-awareness and what you do with it and how it benefits you, or things you're doing now that you've become aware of that maybe you weren't 6-9 months ago?
I think the best way to be self-aware is to not be self-aware. That makes sense. You need to take the feedback from other people to help you change what you do to then be self-aware. So if nobody ever gave us any constructive feedback, we'd think we were perfect at everything we did. You know, we'd get in a car and we'd drive and we'd be like, oh, nobody's told me I'm doing that wrong. So
and I can tell you, it is a burden being perfect, I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's only when someone picks up on something that constructively changes you that you then are then aware of it and are then there to look out for it, unless it's something obvious. So say Boris Johnson, again, his political advisor says you were pointing too much, that's too aggressive. You probably would never see him do it again because he would think, oh, okay, that's the other side of the coin. That I was doing it for what Lee said to be passionate, but a lot of people could see that as being aggressive. Fine, so I need to adjust what I do to do it another way. So I think people, or myself, I find that I'm most self-aware when somebody gives me something to be self-aware about. And then from there it's just a case of monitoring and trying to remember in follow-up situations that those self-awareness pieces, what they are and how they can help you. So in the things I've done, I've gained feedback from peers, managers, people I work with, people that have trained me previously, and all those things have come back and given me a load of things to work on. So now I'm making an effort to work on those step by step and piece by piece, so that if it's about receiving feedback and maybe not taking it in the right way, I can then kind of think before I speak and go, okay, I'm going to get some bad feedback here or some constructive feedback. Think about what you're going to say. Be positive about it. You're not going to be happy about it, but be positive about it at the time, and then just keep it to yourself. And then I think from there, I think that's my biggest learning curve this year, or in the last 6 months, is taking feedback better and trying really hard to not let it visually affect me. Because as soon as somebody gives you constructive feedback and they can tell you look visually annoyed or hurt or ticked off about it, they then feel as though that they're doing you a disservice by giving it to you, but they're actually helping you. So I'm doing my best to put a brave face on it, not get wound up by it, and just be alright.
I think there's a lot about, and I think we talk about feedback on the podcast. Did we talk about feedback? Have we done a podcast about feedback? We've not done it.
I don't think we have
I've
done one
spoken about
just on
feedback before.
Yeah, I was going to say we spoke about this topic during previous podcasts.
So there's a lot in that. So almost, when you're having that feedback, that you can have that emotion and you will find it and you will have that micro response. But the fact that you're aware, even though you might, I was just giving that to Brian, I saw his face, but actually you go, oh, okay, so what is it about it? You have that response. You're going to feel that emotion no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But I like the way you're almost like having that emotion and go, okay, so what can I learn from it? The other thing is that I think about when people give feedback, and I think it's a bit of self-awareness. Whoever's listening to this, you provide feedback to people, what's your intention about the feedback? Because I've had feedback which is used as a stick to bash you with, which is a total different set, and I've had feedback that there's an intention behind it to really help you, and you can tell the difference. However, there is a little bit of a caveat to this, because even if it's feedback that's to bash you over the head with, and people don't really know how to deliver it with intention to help you. This is what I say to people who I have in my training room or coaching rooms. I say to them, don't think about how the message is delivered, like what you're saying, Ryan, really, is what's in that information that I can take out that's going to benefit me? Is there anything in there?
Yeah.
That's the key, and I think that comes back down to self-awareness, because I've had feedback that I really don't like the way, I really dislike the way it's delivered. But was there something in there that I can take away that I can use? And that takes a massive amount of self-awareness and actually having to control those emotions and things like that. But the fact that you're working on that's amazing, because if you can get to that level where even if someone delivers you in a way you did not like they're almost like beating you with a stick with it, but you saw, there is something in this, that's huge, literally massive.
And if people listening want to get some feedback, they should head over to JN Coaching Tech. If you stick JN Coaching Technologies into your search engine, take you over to Joe's website. There's loads of materials there to help you on your own self-development journey. There's Joe's weekly blog. There's a link through to the daily videos as well. And of course, as we say, coaching is Joe's bread and butter. He wants to give you some feedback, and if you want some from him, you can contact Joe at the website. That again is JN Coaching Technologies.
Excellent.
Into your Google machine.
Oh, I love the Google machine. I think you should put that.
You was going to say it then.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
You should
Dude, why
want to
not?
say it.
Just say this is
it again.
I know. For people who pick up on it, I have stolen that from another podcaster, but obviously it hasn't gone down as well in this one as it did in this one.
It went down fine.
well,
I just didn't expect you to come out with it.
Thank you, Conrad Thompson. Right, moving
lovely.
on.
A bit of shout out on the podcast for that one. There's something you said and I wanted to pick up on it. What was you saying? Feedback. That was what you were talking about. Feedback. Like, I want to give feedback. Actually, we should be asking the guys for feedback as well.
Absolutely.
Anyone out there,
right.
we should ask them to see, what they think.
That's it. And we don't, Twitter, Facebook, there's a feedback form on the website itself. Yeah. You can obviously direct messages through any of those platforms as well. We would absolutely love to hear people's feedback on the show, how it's been going so far, what they'd like to hear about, what we could do differently.
Yeah, and I think also any comments around self-awareness and what you've experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. People's own stories.
A story. We'd love it, because we could feature it if you don't mind. We'd love it. To talk about that, or you give us a bit of a précis about it. We could talk about that. I think it'd be good. Yeah. So talking about self-awareness, I've got a little. I don't know if anyone heard of. I wrote it down here. I said to you, I'm not really using these notes much. I said before, because we talked about the winging it last episode, and I'm just really using this as something. We're starting sort of the second half of the podcast after the little ditty that Lee put in there. But there's a little tool that I like. I want to talk about insight. Can you please remind me to talk about that insight thing again?
Yes.
But there's something called Johari's Window. Has everyone any heard of that? Johari's Window.
We've spoken about that before, haven't we?
We heard about this before?
Have we spoken about it before?
I don't know.
Or have I?
Is that one of your management things that you've gone through?
Yeah, it is. It is. We haven't spoken about it. I've learned about it.
I would say that's my bad memory kicking in again, but it's
you must have gone through it then.
It's not ringing any bells.
No.
So what's your?
So my understanding is Johari Window is people will know things about you that you don't know about yourself.
Yeah.
And that is what the Johari Window is, because they'll look at you through that window. So there'll be things I know about Lee from his body language and what he says that he won't even know about himself. I'll know things about you that I don't know about yourself, and you'll know things about me that I don't know about myself. And that Johari Window is how that person views you. They view you through that window, and that's my understanding of it. Yeah. And there's probably a bit more to it than that. But
you're right. It is really about that, because it's for. I had a little bit of research, because it's just I thought I did see my management training. So this was many years ago. So these are tools that are still being used now, because they're so good, and they stand the test of time. So it's about your known self, it's your hidden self, your blind self, and your unknown self. So I have written these down because there'd be something struggling to remember. I haven't got a bad memory, by the way.
Hold on. I like this, and this is obviously I'll explain it out, because Joe was going to go sans notes. So we had this page that has quite a few notes lacking, and we were going to be not many notes.
There's quite a few notes.
And then what he's done is he's turned the page, and there is a shed load of notes going on. So good intentions, Joe.
Yeah, I know, but I need to explain what it is. Otherwise, I'll be lost a little bit. I have to be honest with it. But I just really like the tool. I really enjoy it in terms of what it brings. So the known self is things that we know about ourselves and others know about us. So I put this, actually, I tried to link this with the conscious incompetent model. I don't know whether it's going to work. So I class as conscious competent, so you know about what people know about you. So I put it that, but I can't fill the whole quadrant. It doesn't quite fit. The hidden self, things we know about ourselves that others don't know. So we know what we know, but they don't know what we know. The blind self, things others know about us and we don't know. So they think things about us, but we don't know. They're not prepared to tell us. So that could be in that feedback loop that they say, you can't tell them. I think they're a bit sensitive. They might hide that from you because you're not ready for it, or they might not ever tell you. And I think that's unconscious incompetent. So I think that's that whole piece. That's what I think. You still don't know what you don't know because they're not told you, which I quite like that. I don't know whether this fits, but roll with it. Unknown self, things neither we nor others know about us, and I think that's unconscious incompetent. And blind self, conscious incompetent. From another perspective, do we make the person aware? So again, it's the blind self. Again, I think that sort of links to the other one a little bit to me when I've looked at that anyway. So there's sort of a Johari's window. So there's a lot of sort of connotations. So I'd say just go off and have a look at that because I think it's quite a good tool. Because as I say, you might not know what people don't know about you, but how do you get to that point?
I was going to say, do you kind of almost, to be fully self-aware, do you need that level of feedback that you know those things, that you're getting that input to know what people think that you're not aware of in yourself?
So I've done this. What I've done is when I started doing the videos, the daily videos, about a month afterwards I thought, okay, I need to sort of have a look and see how they're doing. And I called this guy in that I know he's pretty honest, and I said, and I did almost like, I'm going to quote Evan Carmichael because he uses this, and he says, you still got to love yourself and you still got to appreciate yourself. You say you're not bad, you just try and do your best, but you should love yourself first. But what you need to ask people is like, where do you suck? Like so I said, where is this video really bad? What sucks? So what you're doing is you're giving them permission to give you that blind feedback. So it's not coming out of the blue, it's not coming from them, but that's probably the only way you're ever going to get that, by saying, hey, look, this is a room we've got to save, but I want you to tell me where I really suck at this.
Cool. So you're not just asking for feedback, you're being quite specific on tell me the bad.
What is the bad? Yeah. So I think that's probably the only, but to get to that level, you got to want to do that, because it can be got, well actually, you said about this, but what happens is that person who's going to give you that bad feedback knows that they're going to give it to you, ready to receive it, and they're going to say things like, what I thought was funny was in the room, yes, it's not that bad, Joe, but this is what you could do to improve it. So it's actually delivered in a really nice way because you're giving them permission to tell you how bad it is. And so if you want to get to that level of self-awareness, that's something you could try.
I've done that I can only remember doing it once, but I bossed years and years, probably 6-7 years ago now, I was working with, and we worked really closely together, and actually had that kind of working relationship where we worked really well as a team, but we were such a team that we were friends with each other, and we stay friends to this day. But it's sometimes hard to get that constructive feedback when you're in that type of environment. And I actually specifically said to them, well, what would you tell me I need to improve on? And I remember they told me something, and it was really good feedback, and actually it's something I've incorporated into what I do now, and I can see the difference in me now to then. But at the time, I remember it was like all the air got sucked out of me when they told me. But I didn't disagree with it. I could see it straight away, but it's still, you've got to brace yourself for it. Yeah,
it hurts. It hurts a little bit, doesn't it?
And Ryan might be surprised, but the feedback I got was that I was too slow with implementing things.
Jesus.
Wow. Yeah.
But actually, I look at it, and I did. I've always worked at a pace, and place we work is a quick environment. But I'd know I'd need to do something, but I would then procrastinate on doing it because I just put it on the list, and a couple of weeks later it would happen. Whereas some of that stuff is stuff you can, and it did. Well, you know how I am now, so you can see the positive effect that had on me. But I still remember it at the time.
It's amazing how powerful that was.
Yeah.
So I still remember that sucking the air out of me. That's proper. But it's that whole. But you asked for that, didn't you?
Right.
But that means you're in it.
Joe, where do I suck?
Where do you suck?
Yeah. What am I bad at?
What are you bad
Put you on
at?
the spot.
Well, I picked up already in the podcast. I said the fact that you said I got a bad memory. I think you shouldn't say things like that. I think you should watch your language around that, and I think that for me would be one of the things.
That's such a cop-out answer. We'll take that though.
It's true, though, isn't it? This is true. But you asking me now, that's what's coming out. Maybe another thing is that just be more yourself. That maybe not so much of a persona on the podcast. I think just be you. Want to bring more of you in and get. And I think that whole thing we talked about where we've had that really uncomfortable episode where actually both of you like thinking about your feelings. that
Yeah.
that is the thing that we need to work on.
That's not, and I can feel it now.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm good at.
Yeah, so I would say, so you said cop out number 1, but I've given you 2 bits.
Okay.
What about me then? Where do I suck? Both of you can. And Mum. Oh, I've had the hands already. God, this is really honest now. This is like, am I going to feel sucked out? I don't know. But I've given you permission now. Hang on, it's only on Instagram. No one's on Instagram, so I just, so where do I suck?
After you.
I've got one.
Go on.
I just wanted to make you more uncomfortable first.
Do I need to write this down? Let me write this down. At the best form, actually, I better write this down because I will forget.
No, I don't think because we talked about this earlier, so I think it's sometimes you're something aware of, but I think it's the passionate intensity. I think sometimes you overwhelm people when you get very excited about something.
Okay. So
But I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because sometimes we'll do it and you'll be, oh, let's do this and this and this, and sometimes I'm thinking in my head,
do I railroad someone?
I don't think it's railroading, no. Or not my interpretation of railroading, because railroading is a bit, it's my way or the highway, and I don't think that's how you are at all. I think you're very collaborative.
If I ever did do that, please let me know. Like, I'd want you to be honest with me, like, because I don't want to be able to force things through. Like, I don't like that being done to me. So so if I feel, it's just because I get very passionate about things, and like that thing, isn't it? You said I do get passionate. I don't know whether what am I doing to you guys if I do that?
I don't know. I suppose it's when it comes through. Sometimes it's if stuff's.
Can you give an example?
I'm trying to think now.
Because I
can't because I'm always going to turn it back on myself because sometimes.
No, but don't, because I think this is your challenge now. Because you've asked, and I think, well, actually, Ryan's got one as well. But I need to draw. Like, clearly, it's something I need to work on.
So, you suggested about us doing a Patreon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I think it might be a bit early for us to do something like that.
Okay.
And I think because you saw something you've done it right, let's get this put in place. And I think sometimes you don't take your 5% before the 95%.
It's heart over brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
That's a good explanation. Yeah.
I'm very much like that. I will go. I never used to be. I've more channeled that. I've actually purposely done that, but then I think there must be a point where I need to.
And that's why I don't think it's the best example, because I know you're aware of that and it's in your conscious and you. Yeah,
but I need to be reminded of it. If that's the case, I need someone like this is what the sense check, isn't it? It's the sense check.
We don't make notes on these things, though, do we? We don't. It won't be until something happens. They're like, are they aware that they've done that? Are they not aware that they've done that? We're just not as
it's normally a reflective thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not as if Lee sat there and gone, Joe's so bad putting his heart over his head, and just thought about it for the last half an hour that we've been recording. It's something that you've had to think about for 2-3 minutes. So it's not, these things from everyone, I think, aren't just there all the time. People think of them at the time that something happens, and they think, well, are they aware that they've done that? Are they not aware that they've done that? And then that's when potentially they would remember it, unless they make an actual note of that happening. So again, for me, I don't know if that's more of a cop-out when we're trying to get out of it, but I agree with what Lee said, but I can't think of anything on that level.
Have you got anything for me?
That's what I'm saying, I can't think of anything that's different.
Let me give you a subject then, because you are our video man.
Right.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked that person in the room. Where do I suck on the videos? Like, the daily videos, because I know you watch sometimes. Is there anything in there, like, because I only got like a minute, do you think there's anything in there that you think where it's sucky? I got told by one person, I'll let you think about that one, but I got some feedback from my daughter about my boyfriend, or I better not name him. I won't name them because they might listen, because I don't want them to feel bad. But they said they felt that some of the videos are cringy.
Oh.
Like, almost like cheesy, but I love
potentially,
cheese.
But you're not aiming for that target market.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say you're based more on, not saying that they're not this, but you're based on more of the potentially slightly older person that's in more of a leadership role to help them keep motivated and keep.
Are you being nice, Ryan? Are you being nice?
Well, I'm just saying that potentially the person that's giving you that feedback would think that way,
okay,
because they're not in that position.
Yeah. Okay.
So they wouldn't see it that way. I think the videos always start with like a 3-second picture, and then they start.
Yes.
I've always get confused about that. What's the point of that?
So no picture.
Yeah, well,
Shall I try with that picture?
But, is there a reason?
The only reason I'll do the pictures so they know what I'm going to talk about. Like I put.
Isn't that what your captions for? Though?
You know the little.
The words underneath.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that's for though?
What do you mean?
So you say that you can put words in it to show people what you're going to talk about, which is fine.
Yeah.
But is that not what the Instagram caption's for? So you'll say.
Instagram caption.
So you know the writing underneath the post.
Oh, what?
That's what that's for.
Oh,
isn't it?
okay.
That's how I see it.
Okay.
I think you're
What do
using.
you? So
hearing that.
Yeah, I can change that. I'll do it tomorrow.
You're using a bit the traditional coaching model there, aren't you? Where you're telling someone what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you've got to
So
read
what's-
You'd
so
almost
what-
want to
Yeah,
take
no,
that
I
out.
accept that.
Where I've got.
Oh no,
that,
but I think it's good to mix
Yeah.
that up and take that out because I think it's.
it will be less of me time to do it because where I've taken that from, and I know Evan come off, it's so much, but he does that sort of thing where he put like a thumbnail and then you'll go, right, it's this, and then it'll go into the video. But you think actually without that and just have the thing would be.
But even if you scroll through the Instagram page, your Instagram page, the videos. So say you're not on a specific video, you're on your profile.
Yeah.
The videos don't play, so there's a thumbnail of them there. So you then have to click on that post to see that thumbnail,
I
to
suppose-
see that video.
So when I'm on Instagram, you know the thumbnail.
It's almost as if you're duplicating your work.
Okay.
It's almost as if because you could write about it, but then if you put it in the post as well, then was there any need for the other?
Do you know what I think it is? Because you know when you get the little tiles, I know we're going to be Instagramming here, the little tiles, and then when you go onto the tiles, if someone visited the page, it sort of lists like I think this morning was don't do it for money, so there's a video, so if people want to, they could just click on that picture and I'll be talking about money. So when you look at it on the tiles, it tells them what I'd be talking about.
Yeah.
That's probably the reason why, because I think what I had some feedback from the guy who took the room.
Potentially. As I say, I've thought about that in 30 seconds and given it back to you.
I like it.
Just for me, that was something that I've never understood as to why. But then you said that you do it as a caption, but then you have the post as the caption underneath it. So is that necessary? And then you've explained why that's potentially necessary. So I mean, maybe don't change it. Just for
I
me,
can do a few. I can mix it up and see what happens.
I didn't get where
I
it
think
had
that's a
come
good
from.
idea.
Because that was the vision. I said because I did well in my first month I did a video every day and I was doing it. And what happened was that he said, well, I can see all your pictures and I can see your head, but I don't know. You've got about 30 videos, but I don't know which one to say.
Yeah, I mean, again,
So
now
that-
you've explained it. Maybe it is right to keep it. But as I say,
So
just
mix
from
it
where
up.
I was.
Maybe mix it up
Yeah, from where I was like, why is there like a 3-second delay before the video starts?
because it might turn people off. It might say, well, well, I'll just
Because
go.
for me, it's your Instagram, you would know, but how often do older videos get viewed?
I actually don't know. I think
People will find your
traditionally-
video scrolling through their homepage, because then they would have the caption there, wouldn't they?
Okay.
So, I mean, if you get loads of people, or you get a number of people watching the older stuff, then maybe it's worth keeping it, because then they can pick and choose what they want to see. But if the majority of people are scrolling through their feed and see a video and stop, then it's just repeating what you're saying, because it's in the video or the picture, and it's in the post writing underneath it as well.
Okay.
Just
How do you feel about that bit of
I
feedback
like
there,
it.
Joe?
I like it. I think I've got to mix it up, and I've got
I've got to ask for it now, so
because I can.
I'm not worried.
I can think. Yeah, you don't have to worry. But that's the whole point. What we've done is I'm going to mix it up. I am going to mix it up. I'm going to do like one-on-one and see what the engagement's like. I'm going to see because also I can see how many people watch it or view it. I can see how many people like or comment. And so if one version they get more engagement, then I think I'll keep with that format. So I'll just play around with it. I'm going to just start doing that tomorrow. But I like this because this environment we're creating now is like a safe space, and I talked about safe space in the previous ones, that we're asking for the feedback. You don't have to. And Ryan, I wouldn't say you feel under pressure to ask it, even though because me and Lee
I'm
are
not going to be the odd one out.
you don't have to.
No, it's fine. I'm joking.
Good, I was going to give it to you anyway, whether you wanted it or not.
Let's go.
No, well, this is a bit of a full circle example. And a bit of it comes back on me where we talk about the comfort thing. So a theme for you, and you can, if you go back and listen to the podcast you've been on, you can almost hear a journey with you and this constructive feedback thing from people.
Right.
Where I think some of the examples in the earlier ones, you were a little bit more resistant when you were talking about the feedback, whereas now you're in a place where, and I think you're very self-aware that how you take on feedback is one of your development areas and you're working on that really well. But if we go back in time 6 or 9 months from, casual conversations we've had, it was I could see that you weren't good with when you got feedback from some of the things you were talking to me about. But I also, whether I'm right or wrong, I didn't feel like I was the right person or it was the right place to tell you that when you were talking about those things, because actually I think it might have made you more defensive about the feedback you were getting, the better. But I think through the various people who've been supporting you and influenced you and everything else, obviously you've come to a place where that has become an awareness thing for you, which I think is, again, it's really good you're on that journey. But I suppose I'm questioning myself now whether that's something I could have felt the right environment to have that conversation with you then, or whether it was better to let it play out its course now. I don't know, really.
No, I accept that. That's fine.
So what's the actual underlying, the gem that he's going to get? So what is it specifically? There's a lot in there. What is it specifically you want him to work, like you think?
Well, it's what's already being worked on, I think. I think is you're in the conscious competence stage of constructive feedback, because you're taking, you know what you need to do with it, you're taking it on board well, but when you talk about getting the feedback, you will articulate the methodology in your head because it's very conscious to you right now. But I think in another 6 months' time, to take us a full 12 months from when we start to have those initial conversations, it will just be something you do without even thinking, because you'll have retrained your brain to do it, which is what you're going through right now.
Okay.
But I think it's good because you, as we said, I don't think on the podcast, but obviously you've just had your birthday.
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Ryan.
Thank you.
There is no way when I was your age that I was as developed. In fact, it was years after that I even started to have that level of self-awareness. So
I think that's partially where I struggle a little bit, is that I'm not going to turn around and say that I know everything about everything, but where I am quite young, and I would say on a development run that people usually go on when they're a bit older, I get told that I've still got a lot of time. I still get told that you've got a lot of time to learn this stuff, so it's fine. But I don't want to take that time.
You want to learn it now?
I want to learn it now. So it's hard. I get it from my direct team leader a lot. He's like, well, you're 24 now, but you're 23. Like, you've got ages to learn this stuff. Don't worry about it. And I'd be like, well, that doesn't mean I can just give up and be like, I'll learn it in 5 years. Don't worry about it. It's fine. That can't be the way it works at all. Like, I want to be at the end of that road and starting a new journey as quickly as possible. And yeah, obviously you have to pick up the experience of finishing journey 1 before you start journey 2, which is fine. But I can't stay stagnant. I don't like it. I always want to be progressing something or doing something different, or developing myself in another way. That's how I see it anyway. But it's hard when people that are around you are older than you and more experienced than you, because you have to take on what they say, but on the other side, I'm consciously competent and I'm aware of my age and my development program or my development place, and why can't I get there? Why can't I push forward and do that? That's how I see it anyway. So
I remember, Joe, many years ago, all my things started many years ago, age is a very prevalent thing. Back when we were working together at previous employer, you were my team leader, I was a handler, you were getting me to do some training for people. I trained 2 or 3 people, we had quite a good pattern going, and then someone came in who was, I think they were like an ex-police officer, a much older guy, and I was going to do their training, and you actually took me into like a meeting room and gave me a bit of a pep talk on how it was going to be a different challenge, as to, you were saying it might not be any issue whatsoever, but I'm going to be in a situation where I was very young and inexperienced, talking to someone who had a lot more experience, and I might find it a different challenge to get their buy-in to listen to what I was saying, which I say to think I can relate to your feeling there, because I think as much as you can, suffer in the workplace, because they talk about ageism and, stuff with older people in work, but I think also you can suffer when you're younger in work, that everything comes with the tag for their age, or they're really good for their age, when actually you might just be really good. You might not just be good because you're young, you might just be good, but it almost takes something away from it when you put that extra tag on the end of it. And I think that, and again, from a self-awareness thing, I think you are going to come across that a lot, because that's just an environment, and I suppose it's how you manage and internalise and deal with that. And I've gone through that kind of thing where there is a lot of for their age, which you say either to an extent can be a diminishing comment on what you do, or means you will almost there becomes a struggle with being very able at a young age, I think. But again, there's no answer in that. It's how you.
If you're always seen as being young and good, though, or there's no middle ground, you suddenly become he'll be good for his age, and it'll be cool. He's past it now. You see a lot of sports people. You see a lot of sports people, don't you?
I'll just give Joe a sympathetic pat on the shoulder there. So he's past it.
You see it with sports people like I don't know, Andy Murray. He came around when he was relatively young and was like, he'll be really good, and then he'll be really good when he's a bit older. He's 30 now. But there was never a middle ground.
There's never a bit where he's just good.
Yeah, he won the Olympics, he won Wimbledon. That was probably the prime time. But there was never a time where the people described him as, well, he's good. He's no more for his age. Yeah. And then now it's like, well, he's got hip surgery now. He's getting on a bit. Like, where's
the sweet spot?
Yeah. For me, I don't want to have that tagline of being, oh, he's good for his age, because in the 5-10 years time, or however long it is, I'm not good for my age. I'd be good, but then they'd be like, well, where's that 10 years gone? Well, you spent it telling me that I was young.
Well, there's plenty of time.
Yeah. Well, where's that time now?
I agree with you. Absolutely. They should drop that last bit for your age. Because when somebody says, oh, you look good for your age, I don't like that at all. They just say, oh, you look good.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's how we should go. Drop the age bit.
And I think there's a whole thing of go on, sorry,
something we're working on it, aren't we? People to take it in.
Yeah, and I think it's part
Drop
of the
age bit.
It's about
you look good.
That's it. It's a self-awareness, isn't it?
Obviously, you'll never hear that comment, Joe, but for people that would hear that,
look amazing.
Yeah, that's it. Well done. Look at that, Joe. You're back. This is we need to much.
Can I go on?
Yeah, of course you can.
We'll
careful to the camera. But you're right.
Oh, I'm creeping upstairs.
You're right. Okay. Where were we? Sorry.
We will track your banter levels as we go through this, Joe, because it's getting good. So we diverged a little bit off of self-awareness there to a few other bits, but it's a really good conversation there, I think.
Yeah, because I was saying about that, it's never you never ever get a sweet spot. So I think you're right in terms of wanting to learn it now, because time is not infinite. It's you don't ever put the brakes on it.
But you can't force. For me, you can't force these things out of your management, because then they just think that. I don't really know what they would think. They would just think, oh, he's just pushing. No, it's fine.
You should just go and do your thing. Just go do whatever the thing is. You should go do.
I mean, in a real life situation, I was told recently that I'm potentially taking too much on, but then.
Do you feel?
But I wasn't told that.
Do you?
I was told that via a third party.
Right. Okay.
So. It's neither here nor there, but I was told that I'm potentially taking too much on, but I'm not having the development given to me directly, and I'm not being put on a path for that. So of course I'm going to try and show you that, or show these people that are above me that I'm good, I'm relevant, and I'm ready. If they're not going to give me the chance to do it themselves, so I'm not going to sit back on my laurels and go, it'll be alright.
Yeah, I agree.
Of course I'm gonna take the ball and I'm gonna run with it, or I'm gonna take what I can and I'm gonna push forward with what I can until the point's proven.
Yeah.
So I see it from both sides. I mean, the last thing, management want is somebody down their necks all the time, but it's also what they want. They want people to progress that way. But there does come a middle ground, and we'll get onto a different subject completely there, but.
It's still self-awareness, though, isn't it?
This is about your feelings, but also your skills and your development, and again your self-awareness if that comes through. And I think an important thing to note in that is I don't think that ever stops. I think that pushing is something because once you stop pushing, you're coasting.
Yeah.
And I think that's always there, and it will just go up in levels and levels. And actually, I think that. For your self-awareness bit, that is a strength to hold on to and harness and utilise in that way, because it is. And if you look, like Joe, you always talk about Evan Carmichael and stuff, but I think you'd struggle. And he puts out these things where he talks about a person and he has here is this person's top 10 tips, and I think you'll struggle to find one of them where there isn't some permutation of that. Keep pushing, keep driving, keep going.
It's work. Put in the work. That is the top 10. Every single one's put in the work, working hard and smart. As you gave it, it's working hard and smart, both. It's about continue to. But there is another element to that, because one, you've got to make sure that you don't take on too much.
Of course.
So personally, but that's got to be it's a real personal thing that I do. It's being self-aware that actually do I have too much, but not someone else telling you do have too much. How do you feel about what you're doing? Is that too much? And how do you feel about it? That's where you've got to find that balance for you.
But that's also self-awareness as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing where your line is.
Yeah.
And the only person that knows where that line is generally would be you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's the point, is being aware of that, and again, so it all does dial back into that piece of self-awareness. Like, if I don't know what the workload is, but it'd be checking in with you to say how you're feeling about that. Yeah, I'm good, and make sure it's that safe space to say, look, this is too much for me. Having that, being able to say that, yeah, I've got too much. That's where that point is, and making sure that's in that space that you can have that conversation, create enough space of awareness. Because I've had that space where people are taking on, and they just, yes, people will keep taking on, they won't say anything because they feel they have to do it because they're going to lose something out. No, that should be a space that people have to recognise where that limit is, because then they start to
again, that's a really, under the self-awareness umbrella, that whole the skill of being able to say no is such an important thing.
Absolutely.
But again, it's back to the awareness thing and how you use it, because to me, it's a big difference between awareness and I hate the word rules, because some people will take that thing as a rule and they will say no because they've been told they should say no, but they haven't got the awareness to apply it to the right situations. And that, again, that's where that whole self-awareness thing comes in, and it links in with being able to read the situation and read people and knowing what's good for you, because there's some things that will benefit you should dive in on every day of the week. There's some things that don't, and maybe the things to push back on, but there's also a middle ground where it might not be 100% in your self-interest, but actually it's something that will benefit you through other sometimes it's just those things you don't want to do, but it will help someone else and it gets you on. But again, there's a balance to all that sort of stuff, isn't there?
It's recognising I don't really like doing this, but actually by doing this I'm going to add to my skill set for doing it. And it's going to, like I say, the benefit of that is doing it because it helps that person, or I'm doing it because I've got to have this discipline to do this list. It's going to build my self-discipline for me to get to where I want to be.
And it comes back
just
to
recognising those bits,
this whole self-awareness of how you're positioned, that affects everything.
Yeah.
But again, it's always a skill you're always learning and going in. Exactly like we did at the start of this episode, that then you reflect back on, and sometimes you're like, oh, I did that really well, and I remember that. Sometimes it's, oh, I could have done that better. And I mean, I won't go into all the details around on there, but just this week I had an interaction with someone where I think they felt like I'd thrown them under the bus. So they came out to something with a really defensive response, and my initial thing was, what the hell are they going on about? Why are they getting hepped up? And but then I kind of stepped back from the situation, and I could see actually how doing something in a rush had made them feel like I'd done something. So there's almost a reflection on what I did in the first place, which I tried to protect someone from something, but actually in doing so I'd answered for them, and I didn't give the answer they'd probably wanted to give. So there's kind of a few layers there to how I'd gone wrong, and again, being aware of what I did and what I should have done better, and then trying to have a conversation to acknowledge that with that person and kind of apologise for what I've done and make sure they knew that I wasn't trying to throw them under the bus, because I think if I'd have left it, every interaction we had, they'd have felt like that what I was trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can it's completely accidental. There's no intention for that whatsoever, but I think that's sometimes how those situations build up. And again, it's me trying to reflect back on myself and have that own level of self-awareness.
We like that. And one thing that struck me out that when you just said I rushed it, and that was almost like one of the catalysts to how this happened, because you're just trying to do something quickly. And it's funny because I've got the coaching group that I talked to you about, and I was talking about like being self-aware and the busyness of our lives. We get involved in day-to-day stuff, and we talk about busy. We don't like the word busy in this particular podcast, but it's that place of actually being able to step back from all the noise and go, right, when I'm doing this, what is that now? What am I doing? Am I in the moment? Am I thinking about what I'm going to do, and what's the impact of that? And actually taking a step back, just can be 30 seconds before you plough into that email, before you do that. And again, that's another. That's what I'm trying to get people to step back from the busyness of the day and go, actually, if I'm doing this, what's the impact? Or is this necessary? Is this important? Is this leading to where I want to be? And all those types of little things, and that's the email did that around, and so every week I'll do that sort of thing, just so we can draw ourselves back and have that sort of coaching approach to our lives, really, not just work, but every element, really, because we can get caught up in it.
Absolutely.
And I
think that's exactly what I did there. I think that's exactly that.
And we all do it. We've all done it, and it will go on. But it's just stepping back, and it's now.
I know all the things I should have done when I look on it retrospectively, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I was the person that did them. Because
but the fact lies that you went and gone and spoke to that person, and you're big enough to say, apologise, and that's a massive awareness thing to be actually to step back and apologise, whoever it was. So yeah, really good.
Right, we're coming up on an hour on this subject.
An hour?
Are there any wrapping up comments or tips you want to leave people with?
Okay, I don't know. What about you guys? You got anything at all?
Yes, I just want to say, you to deliver training, right? And at the end of the day, you ask them to fill in an evaluation form.
Feedback, yeah.
I always have felt that it was very difficult for me to fill out these forms. Absolutely difficult, because I couldn't sometimes tell the truth, how I felt about things.
What's the reason?
Because I didn't want to hurt the person when you read them. So I will sometimes not put the whole truth in.
So I think the question would be, how can I give this person the feedback in a way that they would be able to accept it?
Exactly.
So that's that piece of the art of feedback is one of the keys around that.
Yeah, it's exposing yourselves to be criticised when you hand out these forms.
Yeah.
Please evaluate, see how did you like the course.
It's about
it must be hard for you to get,
sometimes the feedback.
With the feedback, it might be dreadful, or
sometimes
it might be very good.
So what I do with that is a really interesting thing about self-awareness is that if I do get that, I will actually go and speak to them and just say, hey, you rated it or whatever the really low score. So what was the reason for that? And there's usually a different perspective around why they did it. One of them was they rated it out of I think they rated it 6 out of 10 or 5. And if you've got a thing called NPS, I don't know if you've heard of NPS. Net Promoter Score. Anyone heard of that?
Yeah.
So anything from 1 to 7. So 1 to 6, I think they're detractors. So if anyone puts a 1 to 6, they're going to if someone asks them about the training or coaching, they're going to when you don't bother going into that, they're going to almost not recommend it.
It's a 1 to 6 is a bad score.
Yeah, so 7 and 8 are neutral. So if they ask you, they go, no, they'll just be they're not against it, they're not for it. So what you're after is your promoters, which are 9 and 10s. So that's so anything that I get for a 5, 6, I don't mind so much the 7 and 8s. That's fine. But when I get a detractor, I need to find out what was it. So then I can say, okay, so what was it? So then I can then improve that, because that's the only way we're going to go out and get better. Because what it was, and one was, it said, because the actual question was, would you recommend this training to a colleague? Mm-hmm. And that's the question. And a lot of people put a 9, whatever the answer is, but they put a 6. And I asked them, what was it? And we said, oh, the way you did it was great. But he said, he said, would you recommend to a colleague? And what the way they perceived that question was, I only think that 40% of our people needed it, and 60% don't. So he put his score as a 6.
Ooh.
So I mean, he split it up into a percentage.
Yeah.
Say only 40% of it needed. So he gave me a 60. So he said only, that's why he gave it a 60. But he did 100%, and I thought that totally made sense. And it totally makes sense, because he felt that a lot of people had that training, they didn't really need it, but some of them do, and that's the way. Oh, okay, I understand now that. And again, it's just it's about how you position that. And again, self-awareness for me, I need to get the awareness around how they were completing that form, because writing is really difficult. So don't ever feel you can't. You should put the score, because it's going to help the person, providing your intention is good about helping.
No, I'm just not talking about the score, I'm talking about the comments.
Yeah, the comments as well.
I don't want to hurt them, and they, on the other hand, I want to be truthful.
Yeah,
so I leave it in blank.
You can say what's great about it, and then but to make it even better would be this. You could do it.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Because you enjoy it. Sometimes you enjoy. I enjoyed this. This would be great.
I always find that so difficult, because I did a lot of day training. Went to a lot of days training as a nurse. You have to attend so many times a year, do so much training. And when they ask us, when you put this form in front of us, I don't want to fill that in.
Self-awareness. Fill it in.
That scoring system's a bit weird. The 7 and 8's neutral.
Yeah.
I don't mind the score.
Isn't 5 neutral, because it's the middle?
You ever look at it? Yeah, it's really strange. And companies rate themselves on NPS.
If somebody gave me an 8 out of 10 for something, I'd be like, oh, that's quite good. That's 80%.
I've had lots of conversations about this thing, and quite often that thing will come up where people will say, oh, well, I'd see that as good, or I'd see that as bad. Because like you said, there's a formula put to it, but everyone in their head has their own interpretation of what's good and bad, or a 1 to.
I'm sure I've got the figures right. It's around.
Yeah. I think
be
you're
read,
right,
and I think if you, because I look at that and I do I sort of calculate the score on it to see where the support and where it is, and if you're in the higher end, you're pretty much all right.
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
Self-awareness thoughts to close us off.
I mean, I think I've just got a couple of steps maybe just to sort of think about as you take away. So I'll just say, ask yourself, what does self-awareness mean to you? What's your interpretation of it? How you can improve it? I think we talked a lot in the podcast about how we can improve it. We've actually given enough chuff of feedback around it. I thought that was good. That was really great. Based on that first, how you can be more self-aware, how can you practice it? So Lee, you would do that. Ryan, you're doing it. I'm doing all this stuff, so I'm continually looking at it. And now you give me that feedback, I'm going to try a few videos. So keep me in the loop, Ryan. I'm going to challenge you to say, well, what do you think of that one? Maybe just ping me some feedback when you see the different videos. Just let me know what you think.
It's like we always say, we talk about this stuff, but we want to try and get across to everyone that not only, we're not just lecturing, this is stuff we're doing ourselves, we even do, or actually we're starting to challenge ourselves to do as well.
And I think through the conversations, this is making us more self-aware all the time. And when you ask that question, okay, when I said, when you said about where do I suck, where I'm no good, I found that quite uncomfortable. This is going to be interesting. But we had created the space, and I said about creating no space, and I think that'd be another good step to create nice safe spaces. And again, just really, how can you use self-awareness to help yourself? But also, I think there's a big thing around this about helping others, about helping them to be more self-aware, and how can you do it? So again, with the feedback form we talk about mums, like, how can you do it in a way which you're great here, okay, how can we get them to even better? Like, because someone could, like, for me, it's like, you can have, like, not very good performance, you can have medium performance, amazing performance. Like, it doesn't matter what performance you have, it can still be better. There'll be some way of making it even better. If you're amazing, you can make it as amazing from 1.0. There's no limit to think actually to be even more amazing. So I think there's always something you can improve. And I mean, on your strengths, so we talk about weakness and strengths around the podcast, don't we? So we want to focus on our strengths and use those to really propel ourselves and be aware of the weaknesses, but really build on those. But how can your strengths be even stronger? I think with self-awareness that will happen. I think it was interesting about the thing about leadership and your school story. I thought that was really, and I've never known that, and I thought, I really like that. Anyway, that's really what I'm going to leave it with as a closing ditty.
I say this is a subject I've really been looking forward to talking about. And it runs through a lot of everything we talk about, but I think for podcasts going forward, it gives a good base point to refer to as well in terms of self-awareness. Because I think without the self-awareness, I think everything else we talk about is almost redundant, because it all comes back to that challenging yourself thing. And I think you've got to have that skill of self-awareness to really be able to apply all that other stuff. As Joe said earlier, we would absolutely love to hear from people about their own thoughts on self-awareness, things they've learnt recently, what their own journeys are with that sort of stuff. We are on Listen TOIN across all platforms. Joey's J in Coach and Tech. I will not forget YouTube as well. Search for Inspiration Nation Podcast. Again, across all those things, leave us a like, give us a share, give us a follow. Love to hear from all of you.
Fantastic.
And all that's left to say is, Joe,
I think we should all do it. We should all do it.
We're going to do it in a group together.
Ready? Go Inspiration Nation, and we do that. You know the sign off, don't you, Mum? Yeah?
No, I don't.
Don't you? Oh, don't worry, it's fine. Don't get. You'll do. You can do it in the next one anyway.
Right, shall I count us down?
Put in.
3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation. We'll catch you guys later.
That's going to get better.